please send 150,000, and you're wondering, my salary is 160,000. Junior, somebody mistakenly fell into a bottle of coca. Please, we need a very expensive surgical straw to suck him out. And you're wondering what is happening. And by the time you begin to do all these things, you just discover you have little or no money left. So, what is the balance, especially for Christians? And I want to really address Christians because Christians struggle, and I will tell you why. We believe in generosity, and the Bible is replete with scriptures on generosity. So, how then do we balance it? The Bible says in Psalm chapter 41, verse 1, for instance, it says, "Blessed is the one who considers the poor." So, meaning, as children of God, we must constantly and repeatedly consider the poor. In fact, God goes a step further to introduce himself as the husband of widows and the father of orphans, just to give a direct relationship between the God of the Bible and people who are financially disadvantaged. All right? Psalm chapter 68, verse 5, "A father of fatherless and a judge of widows is the God in his holy habitation." The same thing in Deuteronomy, or Deuteronomy, enemy, just joking. Chapter 10, verse 18 to 19, Psalm chapter 10, verse 14. So listen, generosity will always be a part of the Christian tradition and religious tradition generally. All right, I think that this is one aspect where we have unanimous agreement, no matter what your faith is. If you're a person of faith or you're just a well-meaning human, I believe that some part of you knows to extend a hand of generosity to people who are financially disadvantaged, and that must always be a part of us. Listen, I want to take my time to really craft my argument carefully, because you see, some of you, it's not a saving problem you have, you're just plain stingy. A lot of people have not learned to be generous, and you're waiting to be a billionaire, all right, before you actually start helping someone out there, and that's wrong. And so I want to establish this balance that first and foremost, generosity is a crucial and important part of what we do and who we are, all right? And we are not going to wait till we have all our needs, every single thing figured out before we now begin to say, "Phew, all right, now that we've built, filled all the bank accounts, who then can we help? Okay, look at this peasant here." You can't think like that and be a child of God. All right, so it's very important you strike that balance. But then there is another extreme where Christians begin to form El Shaddai. El Shaddai is like a religious name for God. That means all sufficient. You are not all sufficient. And I think it's a very important place to begin, to say that if I think I am El Shaddai, I shall die. I think I just said that so that you will remember. The moment I begin to think that I am El Shaddai, I shall die. It's really simple, because as much as you want to think that you can help everybody, you can't. And before I just begin to give you practical tips, I want to help religious people who are just bound by this incessant, impulse to always help and give out money they don't have. I saw something life-changing years ago, and I realized that even in the Bible, there were rules for welfare. There really were rules, because no matter what, no matter how you want to see yourself, resources are limited, so you can't just throw everything out. All right, let me say this: there are enough legitimate needs to finish your money right now. In fact, there are enough legitimate needs in the world to ensure that you live in penury. Just so you know, there are enough legitimate needs. And so there must be a balance, a safe balance, to help you realize, all right, that I can help as much as I can, and other people will also help as much as they can, and I still have enough to meet my needs, to care for my own immediate family, and then to move on with my life. So There must always be that balance. Otherwise, you have a messy financial situation. Look at this. The Bible says in 1 Timothy chapter 4, did I say chapter 4? Chapter 5, from verse 3. You know what it says? It says, help widows who are widows indeed. Oh my God. Just the fact that he begins to make a qualification just tells you that because resources are limited, you now have to begin to consciously make differentiation. All right? So now the church had a pause, but we can't cater for everybody. So now there has to be like a scale of preference. Let's help widows who are widows indeed. Another translation says, give proper recognition to widows who are really in need. Now, I don't really like the fact that it says give proper recognition, because it wasn't talking about recognition, like good morning, ma. When it says honor those who are widows indeed, honor was used as a terminology to talk about financial remuneration. So for instance, when the Bible says honor the Lord with your substance, he's saying if you love the Lord, if you honor the Lord, you're going to give money. All right? So when it says honor those who are widows indeed, he's talking about who gets the welfare. This is a welfare code. Resources are limited, so who then gets the welfare? And it says widows who are widows indeed. Quite all right. We should help the widows, but we can't help every widow. So what then do we do? Help widows who are widows indeed. So who is he calling widows indeed? In verse 4, he says, but if a widow has children or grandchildren, these should first learn to put their religion to work by caring for their own family and repaying their parents and grandparents, for this is pleasing to the Lord. So now he's referring to widows, and widows indeed, as people who are dependent, who are poor, and who don't have immediate family help. So now this is an example of welfare in the church. How come every need you are coming to us? Don't you have family? So now this just gives you a way to think about welfare. As legitimate as your needs are, we can't help only you, especially if you have other people who should be helping. I will tell you how that relates to you as an individual. So now, even if the Bible calls God husband of widows, he now says we have to be wise about this. There are widows who don't have any help at all. Let's prioritize those ones. The ones who have cousins, who have grandchildren, let those ones demonstrate their religion by helping their mother or their auntie. So now this just gives you an idea of what it means to have limited resources and to put it properly. The reason I'm saying this is because I have seen Christians work themselves to penury just out of the compassion and their inability, to put a limit on their generosity. So now, Paul is giving an instruction on who should be helped. Help widows indeed. So for you as an individual, you have every right to say, you know what, I can't help everybody. I am just starting financially. Why is some distant uncle who I don't even remember, when I was growing up, why is he telling me about his financial troubles? Anyway, let me make some more clarification. Look at verse 8 of the same 1 Timothy 5. It says, anyone who does not provide for his relatives and his own household has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. So this is a balance. This is why we must still help. This is a Christian perspective. He says, now, verse 9, no widow may be put on the list of widows unless she is above 60. So now, even in Bible welfare for the church, there was age limits. Do you understand what I'm saying? So now you have the right to say, my parents are retired, they will be my priority. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there must be some, when resources are limited, you can now say, I can't send people to school yet, but I can send money for food once a month. I can do 5K monthly. I can do